Hello YouTube, this is the Omega A31. Today I will be showing you how to install plugins and set up permissions. Um, First off, you'll need to look in the description and you'll find a plugins pack that I made. It has my plugins that I personally configured and also the group manager file that I configured as well. I believe in simplicity when it comes to permissions and groups. The simpler it is, the easier to manage. And actually, for like survival servers and PvP servers, you really do not need a whole bunch of different groups. Like, for example, you'll see on lots of servers like citizens, trusted, VIP, donators, staff, blah 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 blah, and the list goes on and on. It's like you don't need all those groups. Those are considered groups. You really don't need that many. For a good SMP slash rebuild server, you can probably get away with just like maybe the builder one, which is the citizen, and maybe like donator, a moderator, admin, and then owner. That's all you really need. So what you need to do is you can download that if you want as a template. It's really up to you. Or you can start a fresh new um, uh, permission set if you want. But I do use Group Manager because it is the easiest, for me at least, to set up and configure. So also you'll need Notepad++ and WinRAR, and those are both in the description as well. You can download those free. So what you need to do is go into your server folder, go into plugins, and assuming you already have Group Manager installed, whether it be mine or a fresh one, go into Group Manager, go into Worlds. Now this folder right here has to match the name of your world folder. So in your main, in the main server folder, look at your world. If it's called something else, just rename it in your group manager to whatever it is in your main world, in your main server folder. So world 1, they match, so it's gonna work. Okay, so once you go into that folder, you have two files. These are YML files. You have to edit them with, you don't have to, you can edit it with just regular Notepad, but Notepad++ is a lot easier to use. So what you do is you right click on it and then you edit with Notepad++. The reason why I say it's a lot easier is because all the formatting is set up for you. It's pretty easy to use. Okay, so let me go over what the groups are. There's an owner group. The groups themselves are what people, the ranks, basically, in game. So owner is you, the server owner. I have mine as God, and you have access to pretty much every command. And then the donator is like a, anybody who donates, they get access to certain commands that the default group, which is the builder group on my server, is they have a lot of the commands here, but they don't have some of the commands that the donator group has, because donator group, they're special because they donated. I have the builder group set as the default group. This means that when people join your server for the first time, they will be this group right here, builder, which is default. And these permissions, these are all the permissions that I have added to this group based on the plugins that I have on the server. So I'll let you take a look at them yourself. I'm not going to go through all of them here. Okay, so the build, you can set this to true or false. So for your default group, you can set it, if you want them to be able to build, set it to true. Leave if you want it so the default group cannot build, set it to false. And all these permissions right here, these are not tabs. Okay, so like right here on the margin, you actually have to space over 4 times, space over 4 times, then do little dash, and then another space, and then enter the permission node. And now what the permission node does is allows this group right here, the builder group, to use the command. And I will tell you a little bit more about that once we get to it. Okay, so also let me cover what the inheritance does. The inheritance, okay, so the donator, for example, gets the inheritance from builder. So builder, is set as the inheritance. So that means the donator gets access to all these commands here. Okay, just by default, because it inherits the builder group. And the moderator inherits from the donator. So the moderator not only gets what the builder has, but also gets what the donator has, plus its own sets of commands. And the admin gets its inheritance from the moderator. So the admin basically has full control. And then the owner, which is you have full control as well, and you inherit from the admin. Okay, so I'm going to close this out here, and I'm going to go back here, main plugins folder. Okay, so we are in the plugins folder here. So what you need to do is go to Internet Explorer or whatever web browser you use. Go to Google and type in CraftBucket. Okay, and click on this first one where it says Bucket Forums, and go to Forums at the top here, and then okay, so there's 2 different things you can choose from. Get plugins. You can actually do a manual search for a plugin, say Mob Disguise, right? If you're searching for a particular plugin, just type it in there and it'll come up with Mob Disguise or anything related that has similar words to that. And then the other one is plugin releases. These are ones that have been updated for whatever reason on the Bucket forums, and you'll see new ones popping up here all the time. So let me see here. Which plugin should I do? So Townie looks like that's been updated now. I will do. I want to do something that looks interesting. Well, here's a plugin called Eco Creatures. It's been updated. It'll tell you the build that it's compatible with. Even if it doesn't say 1240, if it says like 1000 or 1060 or 1185 or whatever, that doesn't mean it won't work with the latest build. That just means it hasn't been tested. So it can work. It's just trial and error. So go to Eco. Click on. I'm gonna try this one, Eco Creatures, and okay. So if they redirect you to like a new forum that has where they keep all the stuff up to date, or like a Bucket Dev forum, I would go ahead and do that, because on this main page here they're saying that they're no longer supporting help. So I would just go ahead and do that. And I would also look at any requirements and compatibility issues with other plugins. You can read over the description and all that stuff. So I'm gonna go to this forum thing that they're trying to get me to go to. Looks like they keep it up to date here, so that's good. looks like those are issues. Well, I'm not really interested in the issues part. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. All I really care about is, okay. So it is compatible with Essentials Economy, which is what I'm using. And it's also compatible with Group Manager, so that's good, because that's what I'm using. Okay. So what you need to look for is the permissions. We will be adding these in-game, and warnings, known issues. Just look over this really quick. Special things and stuff. Okay, don't care about that. Do I have Vault? Yeah, I have Vault. Okay. So it looks like I made all the preliminary stuff. Okay, so I'm gonna download it. I'm gonna click save. View my download. Okay, so if Eco Creatures, or any plugin for that matter, here's the thing about plugins. They should save as jar, like .jar files, and you should know what a jar file looks like by now. But sometimes if they save as a RAR file, you might have to actually add the .jar to the end of the file when you're saving it. So yeah, that would force it to save it as a jar. But sometimes plugins come as a RAR file that has the jar files inside the RAR file. It's kind of confusing, I know, but you'll understand once you actually download some plugins. So say that if you downloaded Eco Creatures and it's saved as a RAR file, and you opened it up and you saw like meta.inf inside it, well, you'll know right there that it didn't save correctly, because it shouldn't have meta inside it. You gotta delete it and then re-download it, add the .jar to the end, and then save it. Other times, like if you download another plugin and it saves as a RAR file, and then you look inside the RAR file and then it has the jar file of that plugin, then that's okay. You saved it right. You're just gonna have to drag and drop those files out of the RAR file into your plugin folder. So just so you guys know, kind of confusing, I know, sorry, but I try to explain it the best I can. So now we have the plugins folder open. Gonna go to where I saved that download. Where to go? Downloads here. Okay. So I'm gonna drag this jar file into. Oops, I said drag, dude. Okay, so Eco Creatures is now in here. Okay, so now that we got that, actually, hold on. Why is that? Did you get? Okay. Come on, are you what the okay. drag and drop. There we go. Finally. It's like, holy freaking gosh. Alright, so now that we got that done, I'm gonna close back out of here. So once you drop the jar file into the plugins folder, you gotta run the server so it can generate the folder for the plugin. The folder usually doesn't come with the plugin. Sometimes when you download the RAR version of the plugin, it'll have the folder with the settings or the config YML. But if it's just the jar file, you gotta run the server usually, and then it'll generate a folder with the config or settings YML inside it. So now that we've done that, I'm gonna stop the server, and then we're gonna go back up here into plugins, and now we got the Eco Creatures folder like I had promised you. Eco Creatures YML, right click it, edit with Notepad++, and here are all the settings. Now each plugin has its own settings. You're gonna have to do a little research. I'm not gonna support every plugin. It's just I can't do it. You're gonna have to do some research about what the settings do inside there. But yeah. And the permissions. Okay, so let's start up the server again. The permissions and commands, they pretty much go hand in hand, I think. Permissions are you give the permission to the group that you want to have access for the commands, basically. So they work in tandem with each other. Okay, so now that we've done that, let's go into the test server here. Stupid Xfire blaring out my ears. Okay, so here are the permission nodes. Okay. Oh, and the thing about asterisks when you're adding permissions, that indicates all-inclusive. So that means it has if you were to type in this, give this permission to somebody, they would have command permission for all these commands here. They would have all the permissions, basically. So I'm gonna type in, I'm gonna show you how to add permissions in game. It's very easy. So what you do is type /man g add p. That command right there. Oh, sorry, Mega. I will have to get back to you in a sec. Okay, so man g add p is basically giving, it's manually adding permission space. It's manually adding the permission for the group. I'm gonna do builder as our group. Remember, that's our default group there, and then we're gonna type in one of these permissions. You're gonna have to do all of them, unfortunately, depending on whatever plugin you have. But read what the permissions say. Make sure you give the correct permission to the right group. Don't give the admin permission to like the builder group or something. That would just be retarded. Okay, so we're gonna type in builder and then space eco creature dot craft. I'm gonna craft silverfish. Oops. And it just says you added Eco Creature Craft Silverfish your to the group builder permissions. So that gives the builder the permission to use that particular command. So that's how you add permissions in game. Now you can also add permissions to just a single person. So what you would do is type /man, you add p, then the person name, say that there was somebody on the server named Poop, space, and then the permission. For example, eco creature, we're gonna do eco creature dot creature dot craft pig, and I believe it is case sensitive, so make sure you're typing it in correctly. But since there's nobody on my server named Poop, it's gonna give me this message. Yeah. But that's how you add permissions in game, you guys. I would recommend adding the permissions in game rather than in the groups YML. The reason for this is because you can test it a lot easier. Instead of having to stop and restart the server or reload all the plugins and all that stuff, you can do it on the fly in the game. So that's really nice. And hopefully this has helped you guys. Like I said, each permission is different. You're gonna have to do some research on permission, read what the requirements are, make sure you meet those requirements. Also make sure you check out any bugs, any incompatibility issues with other plugins. Make sure it's the plugin you want. Read the description. Yeah, so the permissions and the commands, they go in hand. I just want to make sure you guys realize this, and hopefully this has helped you guys. Each plugin is different. They're not going to be the same. Here's another plugin I got, Lazy Road, which is pretty cool. And a plugin that you guys might want to look into is getting Spout. Look into that. I'm not going to go over it. I'm running out of time. Spout and Spout Craft. It adds a whole new element to the game. Trust me, it's worth it. So look into it, and please comment, rate, subscribe, and hopefully this has helped you guys out. Group Manager for the win, just saying right now. There's other permission plugins out there, Super Perms, Craft, what is it? Bucket permissions buckets, and the list goes on. And Group Manager is just so much easier to use. I'm saying right now, it has prefixes built in with color codes built in. You don't have to use a separate plugin for that, unlike other permission plugins. Yeah, so hopefully this has helped, and please comment, rate, subscribe. See you later. Bye bye.